Well, a few years ago I received this little gift. A couple of friends of mine had visited Brazil and they very, very kindly brought me back this little replica of the iconic statue that overlooks the city of Rio de Janeiro. The 90-year-old statue, which is almost 100 feet tall, gazes over the city from its vantage point over the Corcovado Mountains. The name of this awesome work, I'm sure you know it, it's called Christ the Redeemer. Okay, so why am I talking about this today? Well, perhaps you saw the amazing video on Easter Sunday of the monument being illuminated to look like a doctor in tribute to all the healthcare workers fighting against COVID-19. It was a stunning sight to see, let me tell you. If you've not viewed this footage, then do look it up later. It was marvellous. Folks, during his ministry, Jesus, like the doctors and nurses that the Brazilians were honouring, did heal the sick. And we find an example of the great physician's work in Mark chapter 5. Mark writes this: there was all these large crowds around the Lord, and Mark writes in verse 25, a woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years she had spent everything she had to pay them, but she had not gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe, for she thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Immediately, the bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she had been healed of her terrible condition. Jesus, realizing at once that healing power had gone out from him, so he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my robe? His disciples said to him, look at this crowd passing around you. How can you ask who touched me? But he kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over. Okay, so picture the scene. This lady is trailing behind the massive crowd. She's unsure if it's appropriate to approach this healer. She'd heard the reports about Jesus. She'd heard amazing reports that said that he performed healings, exorcisms, all manner of miracles. And a miracle is precisely what she needs. For 12 long years, she's been drained physically, economically, and spiritually. She's lost her savings, she's lost her strength, she's lost perhaps even her hope that anything could ever change. But now, standing before her is the one that they say is a miracle worker, a change maker. And she overhears folks saying that Jesus is on his way to heal a man's daughter. So she knows that she has got one chance. It's now or never. If I touch his garment, she thinks, I will be made well. So mustering all of her courage and strength, Our Lady slides through the crowd. Finally, she reaches him. She extends her arm to touch his robe, and she is healed. Now, we all love this Bible story, don't we? It's one of faith, boldness, power. It reminds us that nothing is impossible for God, and that no one is outside of his love and care. And it tells us that Jesus heals. But if we're honest, stories of Jesus' healings can cause us to wonder. Okay, it's marvellous that Jesus can do this and all, but here's a question. And it's a question that I've been asked, indeed it's a question that I once asked. Why didn't he heal everybody in Israel during his ministry? I mean, why didn't he open up like a kind of a drive-through healing station, and before you know it, no more lame, no more blind, no more withered hands, no more leprosy in all of Palestine? I mean, seriously, why not? Nothing is too difficult for Jesus. Isn't that what we sing about? Isn't that what we sing about God? Nothing is too difficult for thee. Folks, here's the thing. Jesus is the great physician. That's surely true. And does God have compassion on the sick? 100%. Yes, no doubt. But in reality, Jesus' healings were more of a picture and a promise than merely a welcome relief for someone's situation. You see, just prior to this event, Jesus calmed a storm at sea. Next, he expelled demons from a man, and straight after healing this desperate lady, Jesus raises to life a dead girl. Folks, who created the sea? Who does the psalmist declare in Psalm 107 causes storms to be still? God does. Who exerts power over evil in the spiritual realm? God does. Who heals the sick? Who does David write of in Psalm 103? He heals my diseases. God. And who? Who raises the dead to life? Ezekiel 37, and you shall know that I am the Lord when I raise you from your graves. God raises the dead. Jesus' miraculous healings are primarily identity markers as to his deity. But that's not all. They are physical realities portraying a spiritual one. This woman's physical healing illustrates the spiritual healing Jesus performs for all who follow him. We need healing for a sin-sick soul. And this happens on the cross. By his wounds, you have been healed, the Bible tells us. And Jesus' healings also speak of a perfect final healing. What God has done in miracles past, he will do in our heavenly future. Revelation 21, he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more. So get this, no more sickness, no need for any healing. Folks, we all love our NHS, that's for sure. We love our doctors and nurses, and we thank God and we rightly pay tribute to them, like the folks in Rio did. But God's word tells us that when Jesus returns, they will be out of a job. Let's rejoice that we have a perfect Redeemer and Physician who makes all things new.